is valvular problem, and finally heart failure, which is inefficiency of the heart pump function.
Well, what are the best things a person can do to be heart healthy?
The most important thing is like your car. You got to change the oil. You got to rotate your tires. You got to maintain it. So, for example, heart disease is associated with smoke. Don't smoke. Heart disease is associated with diabetes. Try not to get to that level where you become diabetic. Control your weight, control the eating habits, avoid high fructose, high glucose type of food. That tends to really control the risk factors.
We can learn more at osfhealthcare.org.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau telling him Canada has not done enough to stop fentanyl from crossing into the U.S. Fox's Jared Halpern, the White House considering lifting the temporary pause in military aid to Ukraine. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz revealing talks have been held about setting up peace talks. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt says America loved the president's speech to Congress last night.
According to a
Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. At Great Clips, we save your haircut details in clip notes, so every member of the highly skilled team knows exactly how to create your signature look. And with our easy-to-use app, you can check in from anywhere and get a ready next text when you're up next for a cut. It's the confidence of a great haircut delivered by a team you trust. Download our app today. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Good offensive displays from some players. Luken Baker with another home run. And as I've mentioned before, the players who I think will have an impact on the roster, I thought had positive days. It was a positive day for them. You think about the last inning and era open up things for the Cardinals or for the Astros. And, you know, let's face it, the players who were on the field in the ninth inning won't be on the field come opening day.
Well, the other thing the last couple of innings shows is how important defense is.
It's time to plan your summer.
Here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose. And millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Department of Government Efficiency Chair Elon Musk will meet with House Republicans tonight to discuss efforts to trim the government.
Speaker Mike Johnson has told us that this is going to be an update.
The Voices America Trusts. Download it now.
Department of Government Efficiency Chair Elon Musk will meet with House Republicans tonight to discuss efforts to trim the government.
Speaker Mike Johnson has told us that this is going to be an update on DOJ's.
The Justice Department has filed cyber espionage charges against at least 10 Chinese nationals in hacking campaigns targeting some U.S. agencies and universities. City of Los Angeles is suing South Carolina Edison, claiming sparks from its equipment started January's wildfire near Altadena, California, that destroyed 9,000 buildings and killed 17 people. Lent has begun for Catholics worldwide with Ash Wednesday. Hospitalized with double pneumonia, the Vatican says the Pope has increased his physical activity. At least 3 skiers are dead following a that destroyed 9,000 buildings and killed 17 people. Lent has begun for Catholics worldwide with Ash Wednesday.
Feet below the surface. Officials go on to say due to considerable avalanche risk in this area and limited daylight, no further recovery operations were conducted Tuesday, but troopers plan to assess the area to determine if recovery operations can safely be conducted.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin, and I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for Central Illinois, Champaign, and Van vicinity. This impressive early spring storm, a classic setup, and its web of pressure lines are packed. A lot of wind coming our way the next 18 hours or so, and still some rain shower activity. That'll be shifting from southwest to northeast over to snow showers as the late morning and afternoon wears on. Temperatures, well, we've seen them already at the day's high, slowly falling on those southwest to west winds at 25 to 35. They'll increase gusts to 55 miles per hour. Showers of wet snow and some mixed rain early on, maybe a slushy coating on colder surfaces. Overnight readings down to 26. That west-northwest wind, gust above 45 miles per hour early on. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, windy at 42. Down to the low 30s tomorrow night. Little snow rain mixture here for Friday morning. Rain in the afternoon at 43. Then for a big pattern shift, how about this? At 47 Saturday, 50 Sunday, 60 Monday, 68 Tuesday, into the 70s next Wednesday and Thursday. Boy, a nice mild weather pattern and a lot of springtime ahead mid to late next week. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
Hey, what's up? It's the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Lonte, Kyle Tosk.
Morning.
Heard some baseball on our airwaves right before our show. Nice when you got some spitting snow on the drive over here. You hear some warm weather sounds and all of that.
Tell me it's March without telling me it's March.
No doubt, yep.
Gale force winds, rain/snow. Welcome to high school baseball season, everybody. Let's go.
Yeah. Except for those who are trying to extend their high school basketball season this time of year.
I'm going to give kudos to Champaign Central last night. They played really well against Chatham Glenwood. They were up big in that game in the fourth quarter. Chatham came back, tied it, sent it to overtime. Central had a chance to win it at the end. Didn't happen. And then Central didn't score in overtime. Chatham ended up winning, I think, by 11. So Chatham advances, but what a finish to the season for Champaign Central. I don't know that they had kind of maybe the regular season that they wanted to have, but what a showing. They won a regional title and showed up really well last night to face Glenwood in OT. So, yeah, so Chatham waits Friday for the winner of tonight between Lincoln and Mount Zion. So let's get it on. Let's go.
Big ball game.
It is. Lincoln, as mentioned yesterday, they'll play that little soft baby 1-2-2 press. They just want to slow the game down. They don't really try to steal the ball that much off the press, but then when they settle back into that 3-2, they're pretty aggressive with it. So they want to. I don't want to say muck it up, but they want to slow it down. They want the scores to be lower. Mount Zion likes to get out and run. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. I said to the guys, I'm like, well, if you get a double-digit lead, they got to come to you. I mean, they can't play a 3-2 zone if you're up 10 with 6 to play. You can just sit out at half court and dribble. So let's make them come to us and let's have some fun tonight. But, yeah, I was telling you, like, nobody cares about any of that, honestly, listening. But everybody can – well, most everybody can put themselves in my shoes with regards to the idea that it's a big game and I want Andrew to win and continue to have success. But it's also the idea that the next loss could be his last game in basketball ever for a kid that I shot baskets with in this little thing that you shoot with Cade with now in the house, and then coached him from second grade on, and now all of a sudden just one loss and could end a career, even though he's going to go on to play high school. We got 32 high school baseball games staring us in the face, and, of course, college baseball. So I'm excited with that. Don't get me wrong, but basketball has always been my first love, and there is just a little bit more pressure. And what sucks about being a parent –
I was going to say that you sound more nervous than he probably does, by a million%.
Andrew hardly ever gets nervous, but I guarantee you I'm more nervous. And you remember how it is, Pipes. Balls tipped, balls kicked off, whatever, and the nerves go away. Mm-hmm. You know, that doesn't mean you're not a little bit anxious, you're not a little bit nervous as an athlete, but I can remember 2 minutes into a basketball game, that was it. You didn't think anything more about the nervousness of trying to win. You were just trying to win. So at that point, you just let your instincts take over. You hope that your athleticism, which I had none, would take over and your squad would do well. But for a parent, you don't get that. You have to sit there in the stands and just hope for a 10-0 run. for you guys. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do tonight. Let's go. Oh, what the heck? I'll miss this feeling.
Yeah.
I'll miss this feeling of then I'm done after this. The competitiveness, like if you grow up playing athletics, there's a little part of you that's competitive, right? You want to win. And when you get done playing, you lose that for a while. I mean, like rec center basketball at SIU didn't quite bring that kind of pressure with the Bird Dogs, although we did win the 6 and under 2 years in a row. But it was one of those where you didn't really quite get that, and then all of a sudden now you get kids, and that nervousness comes right back, and you just hope they play well. You hope that things, there's no flukes. I don't want any flukes. I don't want to lose on a half-court shot, something like that, right? So let's go. Let's play some basketball and have some fun, and thank God we're playing basketball when it's 24 degrees out and gale force winds. I don't even know what the temperature is, but I swear this morning it was supposed to be 52, and it's like 30.
Yeah.
And I'm talking too much.
It's definitely not 50-something.
No.
I'm seeing 35 degrees. So
35. Okay.
Right there on that border of freezing or not, and that's why you're seeing maybe a little bit of snow, some rain, and mixed in there. Speaking of basketball, last night was kind of a crazy night in college hoops. You saw number 1 Auburn go down to Texas A&M,
right,
who had been on a losing streak, and that was a good win for Buzz Williams and company. There's been I was talking to Kyle about this off the air yesterday, and it might be worth maybe not a full segment, but a little bit of a conversation. I think it was DraftKings at one point. I don't think they still have the promotion, but they were trying to probe people and say, hey, would you bet Duke and Auburn? We'll give you one of those two versus the field. I think Duke or Auburn was like plus 180, and then the field was not even able to be bet on, but you were saying, okay, I'll take one of those two winning versus everybody else. I think a lot of people, I told Kyle yesterday, I regret not betting that. And even with Auburn losing last night, I still wish I had that ticket for Duke or Auburn. But I wanted to pitch that out to you guys. Do you feel like it is going to be one of those? But there is still a lot of quality teams out there, whether it's Alabama, Florida, Houston, Tennessee, on down the line. And, of course, you could get a little bit more into the Cinderella story. But I still feel like one of those two teams is going to win it. But Duke hasn't played. I know. I hate that Illinois is part of that. You're almost like, Duke hasn't played anybody in a while. Okay, Duke hasn't been challenged in a while.
There you go. There's a better way of saying it.
And then Auburn, they're in the SEC. You're bound to drop a couple, and they've been tremendous all year. But what do you guys think about that?
I would be upset because it wouldn't be a parlay. Derek.
Yeah, you're right.
You understand I don't know how to wager just one individual game,
Unless
right?
It's golf.
Unless it's golf, then or NASCAR. I can throw those two on that and never win, by the way. Well, I do win at golf once in a while. So my answer to that would be I'd for sure take Duke or Auburn. And I would do that probably every year, especially last year with UConn. The last 2 years, I definitely would have put all my money on UConn. I do feel like, and I know that there have been those teams that have come up and won this thing, and I know there's 2 seeds that have won it, 3 seeds and on down the line, but it just seems for the most part when what do they call that? When the whatever rises, like at the end when everything's clear and there's a Final Four, it does seem like there's always a couple of those guys that you assumed would be there are there. And I think for Duke, after watching them play, and it's not just about Cooper, just that entire team, trying to shut that team down, good luck with that. And then, admittedly, I haven't seen a lot of Auburn, but they have had such a great season with all their quad one wins. That tells you right there what they're made of. So I just think it would take a yeoman effort to beat either one of those teams, and I think for sure I would make that wager on the 2-1 seeds. Kyle?
Me too, yeah. I would want to be behind Duke or Auburn. Duke's my pick to win the national title. I think it's going to be so hard to take them down.
I said that 10 minutes into the Illinois game. I looked at Andrew. I'm like, I'm putting all my money on Duke.
Yeah, they just have so much talent there, and Cooper Flagg is incredible. But it feels to me a lot like the 2021 season in which Illinois got upset by Loyola.
Oh,
but
right.
Gonzaga and Baylor met in the national title game, and those two were considered pretty much the whole season. Like, these two are far above the others. You had Illinois, you had that Houston team and Michigan and some of those others, but it was Baylor-Gonzaga. Sure enough, Baylor-Gonzaga meet in the final.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year could be similar to that, and at the end of the day, there were just two far superior teams, and they end up playing for the national title.
When was the last surprise? You've had UConn the last 2 years. 21, you said – well, Baylor won it, right? And I remember, Derek, you and I.
Right after they played Illinois, we're like, yep, that's the title winner. That's the best team in the country.
That's the team, and that's how I felt with Duke. I don't know who won it in 22. I never remember things like that. I didn't know if that was kind of a surprise or –
that was Kansas, wasn't it?
It was Kansas.
Okay,
yeah.
so I assume they would have been a 1 seed and probably projected to be really good and possibly win it. So, I mean, at least –
last year wasn't a surprise. You had UConn and Purdue.
Right.
2 1 seeds in the –
So, in the past few years, it really hasn't been much of a surprise team coming up and doing something. So, I think your best bet is doing the Duke and Auburn bet.
We did see – in 23, so 2 years ago, FAU and San Diego State played a Final Four game.
That's right.
And then San Diego State in the title game, but they were never close with UConn. So we've seen some surprise teams get to the final game, like Butler way back when with
2
Brad
years in
Stevens.
a row, right?
They were in the Final Four 2 years in a row.
Oh, Final Four. Okay.
They were in the championship game 2 years in a row.
Okay.
I knew it was Final Four, but I didn't know if it was championship. Yeah, it was. In 2010, 2011.
Gordon Hayward with a shot at the buzzer from half court.
I know.
That would have gone down as one of the more magical shots in the history of college basketball.
It really would have been.
To not only beat evil Duke.
To beat Duke, yeah.
But to have a team like Butler make it, to the championship again and then win it on a half-court heave, that would have been incredible. That's something that you'd see every year on highlights.
No doubt. Be right up there with the Leitner. And
yes.
for like my age and younger, I was too young for the Leitner shot to like live it live and that whole kind of thing. But from half court, I mean, no knock on the Leitner turnaround Jay, which analytics hate, I guess. Do analytics go out the window in the final 2 seconds? Is that a good shot now?
That's funny. That would be, what you just brought up? It would be interesting to go back in history and see some of the things that happened in sports and how
Jordan
analytics.
Baseline jumper, that's a bad shot.
That's a 2-point shot. That's terrible. Jordan, what are you doing, Michael? That is funny, though, when you think about that. Now, Villanova won it on a last-second shot, right?
Yeah.
When
Chris Jenkins from 3.
Yeah, Jenkins from Arson. How do you say that?
Arcidiacono, right?
Arcidiacono, okay. But I guess that would be analytically a good shot as a 3. So,
what about that NC State shot? Is that was a 3 offensive putback,
right?
Yeah.
So
you shoot it so short, you just offensive rebound.
Yeah, analytics like both of those. They liked the 3 and they liked the point blank at the rim shot.
That's
so
right.
I think that may have been the most analytically well done shot in the world. That would be funny, though, to go back and go through some of the moments and be like, nope, that would not be something that analytics would like. That's funny.
No doubt. So we'll see how this plays out. I mean, we're, again, not that far off from seeing this bracket, about a week and a half from Selection Sunday.
Man.
See what it looks like. But it doesn't have to be full-on upside. I think any scenario where, like, Alabama's in the Final Four having a chance to cut it down, St. John's could make a real run at it. But, yeah, Duke and Auburn seems like maybe a run back of Purdue, UConn, or like Kyle mentioned, the Gonzaga and Baylor, and we'll see how that plays out. But Auburn does go down last night. Janai Broome held to 8 points. Don't see that very often. Another bit of a surprise. I think you guys might have seen it, but if I prefaced it by saying there was a team that won last night despite having 29 turnovers.
G-money.
BYU goes to Ames, Iowa. It's a double overtime game, so some of the numbers maybe inflated a little bit. I think the number was in the mid-20s going into OT, but they beat Iowa State on their home court. Only the second opponent in the last 2 years to go into Ames and win.
Wow.
So Ames, tough place to play. BYU wins a wild one. There was that last night as well. And Big Ten related, Purdue's down. Yeah, Purdue can't figure some things out. They look really beatable. Here's 18 threes and 100 points.
50 in each half.
Yeah.
Boy, they've scored a lot of points this year. Now, I know on this little stretch where they were losing, they were really held down. I don't know what happened all of a sudden to their offense or if they were just playing teams that were that good defensively. But, man, when Purdue has won this year, they have scored over 90 quite a bit this year. And that's not usually something that I think of with Purdue. I mean, I'm not saying they're scoring 54 and winning, but normally it doesn't seem like a team that you would just expect to go out and throw up huge numbers, especially three-figure numbers like 100. So impressive by Purdue. Yeah, great. I'm glad they got fixed. Getting ready to come into State Farm Center on Friday.
7 threes each for Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer.
Wow.
You, of course, hope this is always like a sports cliche that we say, like, oh, yeah, well, they got their makes out of the way, and now they're going to come and be broke in Champaign on Friday night. But I don't love the fact, if I'm an Illinois fan, that they got into rhythm. They're fully having their confidence back off of that 4-game losing streak. They've won back-to-back, similar to Illinois. I mean, it's a similar setup for both sides.
Right.
Where a wow performance for both in the last game. I mean, winning at Michigan and doing it there is a lot different than in your home building against Rutgers, who's maybe not even an NIT team, but still to put up 100, to have the 3-point bombs go down like they did. And I'll ask you guys this, and we'll talk more about this game. We've still got tomorrow where Brad Underwood and company will meet with the media, and then Friday. What is, as of right now, kind of your fear factor of Purdue in this game?
It's what they did last night, that all of a sudden especially Lawyer, and I think it's personal for me. I just don't like him. So for me, I think it's that worry that I think Kaufman-Wren gets his. I mean, I think he'll do his thing, and I don't think he'll go crazy against you, but I can just see all of a sudden Purdue just knocking shots down at this stupid level like they did last night. That would be, I think, my biggest fear. But I do like the way Illinois matches up with them. Like, I'm not terrified going into this game with Purdue. I don't feel good about it, in case anybody's wondering. But I think it would be that Purdue just finds its stroke from deep. And I really feel like Smith and Kylan will kind of offset each other. So now who do you –
I think that'd be a win for Illinois.
I do too. Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. I see Smith doing better statistically, but I still think he doesn't go crazy. It's just a guy like Lawyer that would drive me nuts if he just can't miss. Now, he's a lot seemingly better at West Lafayette hitting those threes, but maybe the stats would tell me otherwise. But, yeah, I don't know. That'd be my biggest fear, I think, is just they get hot from the outside, especially that dude.
Yeah, Illinois has been pretty good through the years at limiting threes, but it's been a situation when their defense struggled that teams were shooting 40+% from beyond the arc, and that's something that obviously Purdue was able to do last night. I worry that Braden's just that guy.
Yeah.
Comes into your building. He does the night-night last year with the Steph Curry, go to sleep type of thing.
That's
right. I think Kylan's been great. I really am excited about the way he's been trending going into this matchup. That's super important. I like that Illinois is going to show a different look in ball screens to maybe keep him out of the mid-range, which you of course, then you got to account for the fact if Kaufman-Wren's going to maybe sprint through that screen, slip the screen, whatever it might be, can you get back in time? But I like a little bit of extra help instead of just you sit and drop and let him go to work and get right where he wants to go. But Braden, for me, is the biggest fear. I guess what I should have phrased it as is how much do you fear this Purdue team? Like what is your level of fear? High, medium, low, as far as that goes. But I'll let Kyle answer the question as well. Maybe just how afraid are you of Purdue, a program that's beaten you pretty consistently the last couple of years? Toss-up game, but again, it's the Big Ten Player of the Year potentially in Smith, and they're coming off an epic night against Rutgers.
First off, I agree with you. It's Braden Smith to me in terms of who drives the most fear. I think Kylan's great defensively, but I think Braden Smith's good enough to beat a guy, especially with how many ball screens they put him in, his ability to make those shots. He's shooting it incredibly from three this year, too. Every time I turn a Purdue game on, he's pulling up and hitting a dagger three on somebody. So he's the one that I feel like can just take the game over, where we haven't necessarily seen anybody on Illinois able to do that for a while because Kasparis just has kind of not been that for Illinois. Not that he couldn't be in this game, but in terms of how worried I am about Purdue, I'd put him right about a 5 out of 10. I think it's a solid matchup for Illinois. I think it's a good spot for Illinois. But, man, Purdue's top three players are really good.
Yes, they are.
Especially those top two, Smith and Kaufman-Wren. I think those are probably the two best individual players on the floor, which always scares you. And I do think seeing what Purdue did last night, the fact that it feels similar, like you said, to Illinois, where they've figured some things out and now they're rolling again, I would have felt a lot better if they had still been right on the heels of that 4-game losing streak. And now you get all the confidence in the world with those 18 threes, and Smith, Lawyer, and Kaufman-Wren all play great. That's what would drive it up for me. But I generally feel pretty good about this matchup, I think.
I just feel that good about Kylan right now. When he's wanted to, when he's shown up and done his job, I'm not saying, again, I feel like statistically Braden Smith will still have a game, right? You're not going to hold him to 6 points, 2 assists. That's not going to happen. But I feel like if Kylan can do his job where Braden isn't the difference, then I think Illinois wins this game for sure. And I think they can win even if Smith goes off, as long as you can kind of limit Lawyer, let's say, from the outside, or Wren going crazy inside. But I like where Kylan is right now, and I like that he has been able to flash this defense the last 3 games to the level that we expected him, and to the level that he was doing a lot this season earlier when things were going well. So I'm confident enough, I think, that Kylan. I mean, the other thing is too, I can't imagine. Like I said this the other day, I still can't imagine guarding somebody that's 7 foot and I'm 6'2", to then turn back around and guard a kid that's your height. I mean, is that like almost like, like I'm playing a par 3 golf course today instead of the Masters? It's almost, even though as good as Braden Smith is, right? Who's going to be, he's better than Wolf essentially. So that will be interesting. But that shows you just the difference that Kylan has in a matter of a few days, going from checking a 7-footer and 5 days later, essentially, you got the best guard in the Big Ten maybe coming in, and you got to somehow keep him in front of you. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, keep him in front of you. And like Kyle said, with the screens and such, that's not easy, but you're going to have help there off screens and such. KJ and those guys are going to have to help off. So we'll see. I just would not leave Lawyer. Whoever's checking him, I would not leave him ever. I would just literally take him out of the game. He's not going to drive past you that often. He can, but not very often.
It's not really what he wants to do.
It's not what he wants to do, right? So I'm not helping with whoever is checking Lawyer. I'm like, you're not a help guy. You are on him all over the court. Do not help. Everybody else can pop up and help with Braden Smith.
I agree with you. Yeah, and to your point about if Braden has like an average night,
yes,
then I feel like Illinois is in a pretty good spot. And I was looking back now. Recently, he's been above average. He scored 23 points in back-to-back games. He's had 17 total assists across the wins against UCLA and Rutgers. And here's the big one. He's gone 13 for 23 from 3. He's had 13 threes over the last 2 games.
Oh, he's due to stink.
Yeah, possibly. He wasn't great a couple times during their 4-game losing streak. He played at Indiana, had 8 points, 6 turnovers, 5 assists. Wisconsin, when they lost at home, he had 6 points on 2 of 10 shooting. Did have 12 assists, but
yeah, he was bad in that game.
You take 2 of 10 any night, obviously, out of him. So we'll see how that goes. Contrary to because we saw Kylan make Mark Sears very much a non-factor. The thing about Alabama is they got a number of other options, especially guys that can just flat out beat you off the dribble. Right. I don't feel like Purdue has as much.
Even though Bama was coming off a loss to Purdue.
That's a good call. Yeah.
Isn't that funny to think that?
To think about that.
But no, keep going, though. You're on the right path.
But I think the thing with Purdue is if you can make Braden's night difficult or at least average, I don't feel like there's enough else in terms I don't worry about guards really beating you a whole lot on the perimeter. Now you do have Kaufman-Wren, which I think is a really interesting factor against Tommy. I like Tommy's size against him.
Right.
But
Wren's smart.
He's smart, and he's going to try to get to that right hook in the middle of the lane as much as possible, and we'll see how that goes. But I put my fear at a 6.
Okay.
I do think I agree with Kyle that it's still a pretty decent matchup for Illinois. You are at home, you are riding some momentum, all of that, but I think Braden commands that respect, and Matt Painter commands that respect, and it's just been a team that's been a tough one for Illinois recently, and you got to get over that hump.
Which is exactly where I want to go next. I'm tired of being scared of Purdue, right? I'm tired of it. You had your Edey run. Going into most of those games, you did not feel like you could win against Purdue. Probably the last 10 games you've played against Purdue, you probably went into them with the idea that they are going to probably beat you. Now, I know Shannon and Damask and those guys did their thing once. Did they beat them, though? No. So it's one of those situations where I'm tired of feeling like that. There's no Edey. I'm tired of feeling like, oh, man, here comes no, just go beat them. Just go take care of business. Stop this crap stretch that Purdue's on against you. You're at home. You have no reason to lose to Purdue. That's the way I'm going to approach that game Friday. I hope I'm busy Friday and not able to watch it, but I'll watch it later. But that's the way I feel about it. Just go. Come on, it's a Friday night. I mean, that place is going to be jumping for Purdue. It's going to be jumping.
Oh, it's going to be a great atmosphere.
It would be jumping for Valpo on a Friday, let alone Purdue coming in.
I told Kyle after yesterday, say what you want about the environment, or people have had comments about the Crush or State Farm Center on a given night. Like, this is the kind of game. This is like the home finales against Iowa. I don't think there will be any doubt that this will be a building that's on fire and ready to rock from start to finish. And hopefully Illinois obviously answers that, because the Tennessee game was one. I remember It's like that's a high level building, but then it was just a rock fight. It was hard for the crowd to really like get into it. Hopefully this is one where Illinois' performance allows it to just completely boil over and blow the roof off.
You brought up Tennessee. I was going to bring this up earlier, but you had transitioned to Purdue, which was the smart thing to do. When we come back, like I'd love to see you guys, like if you took the top 10 teams in the country, like a Tennessee or a Michigan State, like what is your confidence factor in them making a deep run in the tournament? It's never too early to start thinking about your bracket, even though you don't know where anybody's going to be.
For sure.
There's always, it seeming, for me at least, there's always that team that I'm like, I'm not taking them far. And then there's that team like Kyle and I right now with Duke where it's like, yeah, I don't see them losing. So I'd be interested to know, like a Tennessee squad, are you comfortable with them making a Final Four? Michigan State is another one where I don't know that I'm comfortable penciling, or pinning, whatever, Michigan State all the way to the Final Four. So I'd love to get your guys' take. You watch much more basketball than I do on just some of those contenders for a Final Four.
That'd be fun to do. We can do that next. 217-359-2255. Hit us up, Max Twin City Recycling text line. Who do you like outside of Auburn and Duke to make a deep run coming up in March Madness? Let us know on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868, Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
PDR Automotive has now been serving the Champaign-Urbana area for over 50 years. To give you some perspective, 50 years ago ended the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, and it was when Secretariat won the Triple Crown. So what does that mean for you and your vehicle? Whether you need a carburetor overhauled or your new vehicle computer system diagnosed or programmed, PDR Automotive has the experienced, knowledgeable staff that can handle all your automotive needs. Online at pdrauto.com, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Our friendly sales team help you to find just the right appliance, just the right price.
I'm Paul Reekin, and you know my dad, Dennis, for the famous
Wow.
Yeah, that's the one. That
Wow
is a Central Illinois tradition, decades in the making. It's our award-winning staff that puts the
Wow
in Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. We have in-house service, in-house appliance installation, a knowledgeable sales staff that will make sure you get the guaranteed best deal on your next appliance purchase. Oh, and let's not forget, a jingle that's been around for decades. Just like the quality service we provide, I'll make sure it's here for decades to come. We're the store that makes you say,
Wow!
We stand behind what we sell, we offer so much more. Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, when you buy from us, you get the whole store.
It's time to plan your summer swimming season. Urbana Park District is selling pool memberships to Crystal Lake Park Family Aquatic Center. Memberships are on sale through April. The pool opens Memorial Day weekend. Single, family, senior, and veteran rates available. Purchase memberships in person at Phillips Recreation Center, 505 West Stoughton, or at Urbana Indoor Aquatic Center. Call 217-367-1544 for details. Urbana Park District, you belong here.
Okay, Tim Onstad in charge of Dedicated Diesel and Gail Furrick's Trucking. Where are we with Dedicated Diesel?
Yeah, we need to get over to the Dedicated Diesel and get those Dixie choppers out. I am instructing Andy over there, whatever Dixie choppers are there right now, to show people what we have invested in them, what our cost is, go $400 over that, and it's theirs.
When it comes to the mowers, you can really get things done quickly on the Dixie chopper, right?
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. I cut mine down by about 2/3, going from a conventional garden tractor riding mower to a zero-turn Dixie chopper. Went, from 3 hours to under an hour.
And how do we reach Andy?
You can get Andy at 217-328-0562. Catch him on Dedicated Equipment on Facebook. Email him at abowman, BOWMAN, @gftlog.com.
Mom, she won't stop touching me. Broccoli stinks.
Guys, no phones at the table.
Family dinner time? Not easy. But you know what is easy? OSF On-Call Urgent Care. When you need convenient, affordable care for minor illnesses and injuries, you need OSF On-Call Urgent Care. Be seen in person or connect 24/7 online when and where you need it. Learn more at osfoncall.org/urgentcare.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's talk some college hoops. Who's bound to go deep in March Madness here coming up pretty soon? Excited for conference tournament play to really get rolling. I think we've got a few of the smaller conferences starting that up. When's the Valley? Is it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Dogs at noon. I'm trying to decide. I told Betsy, I said, I think I'm going to be gone tomorrow. I've got a couple things I need to do, but I thought I could jump in the truck and run down to St. Louis to watch SIU and Indiana State at noon. Or I could sit at home and watch SIU and Indiana State at noon.
You could do that too, yeah.
It's one of those where I haven't been down to Arch Madness in a long time because a lot of times, like, you're gone with Illinois. I'm not blaming you, but, like, sometimes it does fall like that. And plus, SIU just hasn't been good enough to warrant me driving down there. But as an alum, I need to go, and I haven't been to an SIU game forever, plus one in St. Louis. So, so it starts tomorrow at noon, and I may be there.
Good for you.
So I'll let you know
I'd be happy
doing
for
the show
you
tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. We did have Austin say I could see Drake making a nice run in the tourney with Bennett Sturts.
It's funny, though. We've said that about Drake now for about 3 straight years. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love my Valley. I pull. I always say, like, I don't pull for other Big Ten teams. I really don't. Especially in football, like if Ohio State's playing in some national championship game, I could care less if they win. But, in fact, I'd probably rather them lose. But it is interesting, like with the Valley, since we're such underdogs in the grand scheme of things, I always pull for a Valley team.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'd like to see. And that's like even Illinois State, where my brother went, and he and I would always do that $100 bet every year with the 2 basketball games in football, so we basically just kept trading 100. But it was one of those where I hated Illinois State, but yet now I would take Illinois State making a run and making it to the NCAA tournament. I think that would be incredible for your guy, and just the idea that ISU fans could kind of get some glory back, because Southern and Illinois State, it's been a while since those programs have been any good. And Ty Pence, of course, from St. Joe on that Illinois State team. So it'd be cool to see the Redbirds make a run. By the way, Rob Judson, I know Stevie had him on the other morning, but Rob Judson retiring after this season from coaching, and what a career, what a, just an amazing run for Rob Judson. Married Kim McCarty out of Tuscola, Illinois, and just had a great run in college hoops, coached at Illinois a couple of different times, and just literally salt of the earth, one of the nicest people you'd ever meet in your life. A devout Christian, So, I mean, just a guy that is a really great guy. And congrats to Rob Judson. And I'd like to see Illinois State go on a little run to give him some fun here.
That'd be really cool.
That would be.
Yeah, and I really like Ryden Peden, who was assistant at Illinois, and then made his way. Chris Holtman, Butler, and then over there in Ohio State.
That's
but, yeah,
right.
I got a chance to meet Judson on the road. I don't know if that was a year or 2 ago, but, yeah, really nice guy.
I bet he probably blew you away how nice he was.
Yeah, he was really nice. Really, really nice.
It's almost like, how are you this nice?
Right?
It's like Deion Thomas. I'm like,
Thomas. I'll
how
never
are you
forget
this
beating
nice?
Deion Thomas. Like, man, this is the nicest dude in the world.
He really is.
And I still think that to this day.
Amen.
When's the last time? And I don't want to go too far off the tracks. When's the last time a Valley team like made the second weekend?
I would assume it would be one of
that
those.
Northern Iowa team, or has it been since then?
It may have been Northern Iowa, or was it Wichita State way back?
Ah,
I mean, when they had.
Yeah, that's a good call.
The guard that didn't come to Illinois because we didn't recruit him.
Fred Van Vliet.
Yeah, Van Vliet.
Well, that really good Wichita team that was a 1 seed lost to 8 seed Kentucky in the first weekend.
I forgot about that. I'm
But
sure
Marshall
Northern
got him to
Iowa
a Final
maybe.
Four, right?
I thought he did.
Was it a Final Four?
At some point, I think so. It was before that, I think. Maybe.
2013 Final Four, Greg Marshall out of the Valley. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, because, Creighton, they had some runs in the Valley. And then, of
I
course,
keep forgetting they were a Valley team, yeah.
They were in the Valley and left. And then, of course, Wichita State kind of popped up, and they were kind of the team to beat for a while. And now Northern Iowa, you're right. They've had a good run. I think Northern Iowa did win a game a few years ago to get to the second round, but I don't think they've gone
They
past.
make like a half-court game winner to beat somebody?
Well, they beat Kansas the one year. That was
I probably went
while
way too
ago.
far back on saying have they got since then. That's a good call on Wichita. I feel like there was maybe a game winner a little sooner than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Who was the dude that hit the big shot against Kansas?
Ali Faroukmanesh.
Good call. I knew you'd know it.
Yes.
Ali, how do you say it?
Faroukmanesh.
I'll never forget being old. I was
2010.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas and sick that day. I was literally sick with like food poisoning, and we went to the old part of Vegas. What do they call that? Like there's the new and then so we were in the old part, and we went into this huge sports book. And, well, they don't really have a huge sports book. It was just kind of like a huge room. And there were all these fans, of course, rooting against Kansas because they were losing. And then there were two people wearing Northern Iowa jerseys. And I went up to them, and I'm like, hey, I'm a dog. I'm rooting for you guys. They're like, let's go. That was so funny. I'll never forget that. But, yeah, that was fun to see Self.
Love it.
Yeah, because that wasn't far after he had left.
That's true. Yeah.
5 years or whatever. So
Yeah.
we were still in that stage of, I don't necessarily hate you, Bill, but I don't need to see you do really well.
For sure.
So when he got upset there, that was kind of fun.
There was that upset within the first few years of his tenure. The Bucknell one.
Bucknell.
Was that his first year there?
Oh, I think.
People started calling him Bucknell Bill. He had a rep of kind of, I wouldn't say choking in the tournament. That's a little harsh, but I'm sure some people felt that way. But there were some questions about him until he finally got that title and
finally
I
broke
don't remember
through.
what year that was, but
He's
able
got
to beat
two
Derrick
there
Rose
now, right?
In Cal, yeah.
Yeah, two at Kansas.
Yep.
So.
Kansas usually a team we'd be talking about, if not one of the top two, but outside of that, into that next layer, and they're not. I was looking at, as we're gearing up for this segment, I was on the bracket big board for the Gaming Juice. Our buddy Brad Evans, he has them as an 8 seed, Kansas right now. He has Illinois as the last 7, and Kansas is the first 8. But to answer Lon's question, let's get to that. Auburn and Duke.
By the way, real quick, the last Valley team to make the Sweet 16 was actually Loyola because they were in the Valley at the time.
Wow.
2 Loyola mentions today. Gosh.
Yeah, and both by Kyle.
Both by Kyle. For the record.
Just for the record.
For everybody out there.
Just so
Kyle
everybody understands
twice.
who the evil man is.
I pretended to forget.
I wasn't going to say it the first time, and then I had to.
You guys just could have agreed with me. Oh, yeah, Northern Iowa. Way back when. That's the last time.
I'm like, don't say it. Don't anybody find out.
I'm just kidding.
I did forget they were in the Valley, yeah. So, good call.
I way overshot how long ago it was. But, yeah, okay, good to know.
Well, everybody that goes to a Sweet 16 from the Valley then immediately leaves.
Yeah, right. It's hard to keep up with that.
It's like your way out. Like, well, you can leave the conference, but you have to do this first. All right, that's fair.
There you go. Auburn, Duke, 2 of the favorites at the top of the board. After that, what's the feeling on that next group and how deep of a run they can make, confidence level as far as that goes? So let's run through this. And I'll just go by Brad's big board down the seed lines, and we'll just start next in line, the third highest rated 1 seed, Houston.
Is Auburn still 1?
Brad still has Auburn 1 and Duke 2.
Okay. Houston is so interesting to me. And again, this is me deflecting back to you guys because you've watched tons more basketball than I have. Even Pipes, when you're covering Illinois games, you've still watched more. Houston, have they done that well in the last 5 years? I know they're always like a 2 seed, but have they done enough to where you're like, oh yeah, they've been to 2 Final Fours and 2 Elite Eights, let's say. Have they always been pretty consistent in tournament play?
Last 4 years, they've gone to 2 Elite Eights, 1 Final Four. It's been 4 straight Sweet 16s.
Wow.
For Sampson. Really 5 because of the COVID year. There was no tournament. The year before that, they were a Sweet 16 team.
Wow.
So second weekend, they're pretty much an automatic. But they were a 1 seed each of the last 2 years and got bounced in the Sweet 16.
Oh.
So that's not great, obviously. Not going where they were expected to go.
That isn't, because the gist of my thought was, who can I trust to get deep? And when I mean deep is at least an Elite Eight. I think Houston has shown enough now that you've told me that over the last few years that I think I would be comfortable throwing Houston pretty far in my bracket, unless there's just a just a matchup that I just terribly don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd be comfortable with Houston going pretty far.
I would as well. I mean, 18-1 in the Big
Wow.
12 is really impressive. Again, it's not the top league in the country, but it's still a really good league. They're great on offense and defense. This is a really good shooting team. Some of the recent Houston teams haven't been able to make it from beyond the arc at a high clip, but they're third in the country, darn near 40% from beyond the arc. And LJ Cryer is a big part of that. Transfer from Baylor, who's now been there the second year.
He's still playing.
Yep, still playing. So I like having a really good scorer with a team that's great on the glass. It's a really good defense. So I'm in on Houston. I haven't seen them a ton, admittedly, but I did catch their game against Kansas the other night, and that was a hard-fought game by Kansas. That was actually one of their tougher performances, but I like this Houston team a lot.
Has a player ever won a national title on 2 different teams?
That's a good question. I don't know. Was Cryer on that national title team?
Oh, I was thinking he was.
Might have been a freshman.
Yeah, he was a freshman on that team. Good call. Yep.
And played.
And he's now a fifth-year guard at Houston.
I would say the answer to that would be no. We're so new into the – anyway, we're defeating the purpose of the topic. So it's my fault. I just thought of that one because I remember him playing against Illinois in that game, I thought. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think they're a Final Four team. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, they've lost 1 time since November, and it was by 1 in overtime to Texas Tech.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I probably have the most confidence in Houston other than Duke and Auburn. And I buy into Houston every year in the tournament. I picked them to win it all a couple years ago. I picked them to play UConn in the national title last year. Both years they lost in the Sweet 16. So that's the one thing that's holding me back a little bit, because I always kind of view Houston as like, well, nobody's going to upset them.
Right.
They're just so overpowering. There's no 4 or 8 seed will beat them, but 4 seeds have beaten them in 2 straight years. So that holds me back a little bit, but I think this team is a different level than the last 2. I think they're better. I think it's probably a Final Four team.
Let's go down the line then to Tennessee. Tennessee with the Jemai Meshack buzzer beater. Crazy scene there in Knoxville. We were driving, Jeremy and I, up to Ann Arbor, but heard it on the radio and then ended up watching the highlights of Alabama tie game.
Mm-hmm.
You get the 5-second call. Tennessee then gets the ball and then makes one just from the inside of half-court line to win that one. We got an up-close look at that team here in Champaign. Very good defensive team. They have some shot makers, and Chaz Lanier primarily.
Yes.
Gainey off the bench is a good scorer as well. I'll just go first on this. I don't trust that team as much. I don't think they have enough offensive firepower. I think they're too inconsistent as far as that goes. Rick Barnes is a great coach, but he's tended to have a lot of disappointing finishes in the tournament. So I'm selling on Tennessee. I could see them being a Sweet 16 and out, but they are also maybe on upset alert in the first weekend.
Iowa State. That's what they remind me of. And Illinois last year, you guys going into that tournament, going into that game, specifically said the thing that Iowa State that hurts them is their ability to score at a big level. Not that Tennessee can't score, But I get Iowa State feels from this Tennessee team. I'm with you. I'm selling Tennessee. I don't think I would be comfortable taking them too deep.
Kyle?
I agree with that. Yeah. Watching some of their closer games this year, I feel like they have some really bad offensive possessions, and Ziegler's kind of the guy that they go to late in games, and he's 5'9", and it's just it's so hard to trust him to create late game offense. So I don't think I'm in on Tennessee.
How about Alabama, the top of the 2-seed line? They're the losers in that game against the Vols. This is kind of the inverse. They've got plenty of scoring. They defensively, though, very much a question mark, and have given up big numbers as far as that goes. But they can outscore you. They can outgun you. But when they lost to Missouri, it was 110-98.
Jeez.
They lost to Auburn 94-85. But they are the number 3 team in the country in offense. If you're looking on KenPom, they play with the number 1 pace in the country.
Knew that.
I'm sure you did. And they have 2 returning starters, namely Mark Sears and Grant Nelson, on a team that made the Final Four last year. I'll pitch that to Lon first.
I like Alabama. And it is a lot of because of the scoring. I would fear Alabama would be an upset special early. If they're going to be knocked out, I feel like it would be first round or second round where some team, all of a sudden Alabama is pedestrian scoring and the other team just lights it up or something. I could just see that happening with Alabama. But I like this team a lot. I feel like they're the kind of team that could get on a roll and really ride momentum. I mean, scoring and offense, momentum means a lot to that, right? When you're feeling good, then you're going to be playing good in terms of offense. So I like Alabama. I think I'm definitely buying Alabama. Kyle, what do you think?
I have a lot of trust in Bama, mainly because of the experience they bring back from last year's run. Sears wasn't having a great season for a while. Recently, he's been great. He feels like he's rounding back into form right around the tournament. He was so good in last year's tournament, and I do just think the pace they play at maybe mitigates some of the upset concerns because when you play these high possession games, usually the team with more weapons and more talent will find a way to make their way through it. So I have a lot of trust in Bama, just knowing a lot of those faces have been there before.
Sounds like we have 3 of our Final 4 set.
I'm sticking with Bama as well. I thought that through late December into January that they were at the level of an Auburn or Duke, but that's clearly not the case.
Yes.
Still, I trust them because of Oates and the guys they have back, and Sears and Nelson. And Amori's a good rim presence. They're going to need that, especially defensively. I just feel like that's a team that when they're at their best, and they certainly could hit it in March Madness, that they're really, really tough out. And I could see them as a Final Four team.
Was that the team that beat Meyer and Shannon? Or was that Arkansas?
Arkansas.
Okay.
Yep.
I couldn't.
Eric Musselman. Shirtless Eric Musselman.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
How could I forget?
Let's do one more before we catch a break. Florida. They're another one from the SEC. They're 25-4 this year. They are one of those teams that top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Elijah Martin's been a big transfer for them from FAU. Walter Clayton Jr.'s second-year transfer was with Rick Pitino at Iona. He's really good. So Florida, maybe I think teams or people have come around to that team through the year, but I don't know. What do you guys say on Florida?
I feel like Florida could be, if they're a 1, will be beat by a really tough 4 seed that goes in and just does everything right. In other words, they don't mess the game. They don't turn it over. They don't do a lot of stupid stuff. I'm not high on Florida. So I would probably maybe make them a Sweet 16 run, and that's probably it.
Kyle?
I'm pretty high on Florida because ultimately in March, guard play, I think,
that does
is
help.
a huge differentiator, and they have 3 legitimately great scoring guards who could get 25 on any night. I think that's really hard to handle.
Teddy Dupay.
Like you said, their defense is good, and they went to Auburn and won. And that's the only team in the country that could say that. I was really impressed by that performance. So I like Florida. I do feel like it's tough because you feel like somebody's going to go down. I don't think Auburn or Duke is going to, so Florida would be the team you kind of circle. And I think Houston will be tough to get upset early. But I do like Florida. I think they're going to at least go second weekend Elite 8.
Okay.
I'm with Kyle on that one. I really like their guards. Martin's a really, really good player. Is he a fifth-year guy as well, along with
think so,
John L. Davis? But they have a huge one tonight at Alabama. So that will tell you a lot. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch Florida, I would recommend tuning into that one tonight between Bama and Florida. All right, let's catch a quick break. We'll come back and get to a couple other teams before the hour's up. That is The Drive.
Illinois basketball season is underway. Single-game tickets to see your Fighting Illini at State Farm Center are on sale now at fightingillini.com. Great seats are still available. Lock in your tickets for big games against Big Ten opponents before they're gone. Don't miss your chance to see the winningest team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 5 years. Be part of the atmosphere and get tickets at fightingillini.com.
In 1925, a small plumbing company began its journey in Urbana, Illinois. Over the decades, the business grew thanks to hard work and great people. In 1966, things changed when Dave Reichard, a veteran, met veteran Ken Asklin, who was an architectural engineering grad from Illinois. The two realized their shared vision for excellence. Their partnership took root, and in 1975, the name changed to A&R Mechanical. With Dave as president and Ken as vice president, A&R Mechanical expanded services, becoming the go-to full-service contractor for all of Central Illinois. A&R went from a plumbing-only contractor to a full-service mechanical contractor with their own sheet metal shop. Today, A&R is a plumbing, heating, ventilation service company with the same excellence in customer service as they provided nearly 100 years ago. Design, build, and maintain. That's what served A&R Mechanical for nearly 100 years. Find them at Lincoln and Kettering in Urbana or online at ar-mech.com.
Sarah Champagne's Ben Quattrone on keeping his employees.
It's got to be the place to work. We have to pay the best. We have to treat people the best. Some of the guys wanted to order pizza the other day. Well, we bought 30 Papa Del's pizzas. BMW had the best month they've ever had. They said, can we have a cookout? Saturday, I cooked like 50 ribeye steaks. And they were expecting like cheeseburgers, burgers and hot dogs and stuff. Like, if I'm eating steak, you're eating steak. We both eat steak, we both eat hamburger.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com.
Back on The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's get a couple more teams in here if we can. Michigan State on the 2-seed line. We've seen a lot of them. Do you trust Tom Izzo in what's being viewed increasingly as one of his best coaching jobs? Will they go deep in March?
I just don't trust the front court.
I don't either.
I just don't trust the front court, and I don't know that I trust the back court to be that good to carry the weight. I mean, Tom's not going to lose the first 2 rounds. We know that probably. I think there may be a Sweet 16 lose there.
Yeah, I don't trust him at all. I still don't. I probably should at this point.
Of course, any
I just
Big
don't.
Ten team we shouldn't trust.
I just don't.
Their stretch these last 5 games are so impressive, and I give Tom a ton of credit. Jace Richardson's really good. He's a mid-first round type of guy, but I'm with you. I wouldn't be trusting them in that 2-seed line. If there's a 7 that I really like, I'd be probably looking to bounce them. But
that's a good call.
Could be wrong. They could keep burning me. St. John's, similar makeup, Hall of Fame head coach, really good defense, great rebounding team, not very good shooters. But oddly, I've mentioned this a number of times, I really like St. John's. And I do think it's because they have a little bit more star power on the perimeter. Kadari Richmond, RJ Luis has had a great year as a wing. What do you guys think about St. John's?
Kyle? I have not seen St. John's play the entire
They're
year.
in the same boat as Michigan State for me. Could see them making a Sweet 16. I don't see it as a Final Four contender. I just don't think they're good enough offensively. They're terrible shooting. I'd be surprised if they win 4 in a row and take down like a 1 seed.
It would depend upon matchups. If they're in the Duke bracket or the Auburn bracket, I'm probably not going with them.
Got it.
But if there's
that's fair.
If there's another chance to slide them through, otherwise I will have them as a Elite 8, Sweet 16 for sure type of team.
I have to honor my character real quick.
Yeah.
Bryce said food poisoning in Vegas, Shoreline. True story. The games tip off at 9 a.m. in Vegas. Keep in mind. We were in bed by 11 p.m. in Vegas. I wasn't up past midnight in Las Vegas. True story. So one night we went and ate this huge, this really nice steak. I can't remember the place. And the next morning, me and another guy in another room, there were 4 of us total, the whole day sick until the first game. And I had 1 beer that entire day.
Man.
It was not what you think in Vegas. I promise. I was not overindulging. It was literally food poisoning that got me.
That's his story, and he's sticking to it. I'm just kidding. All right. We're going to let you get out of here.
Thank you.
And Kyle and I will hold it down for
Let's
the rest
go.
of the way. We got some more college hoops to talk. We'll
I'm
get
not
to your
nervous.
text.
Why do you say I'm nervous?
I don't know. I didn't say it. And then I want to mention the Bears because they're doing some things as well. We'll have to get to that before we get out of here. We'll be back. It is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Administration is considering cutting federal funding to sanctuary cities which don't cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement. The Supreme Court, in a narrow ruling today, refused to overturn a lower court ruling that the administration must restore $2 billion in payments from the U.S. Agency for International Development that it had ordered stopped. Those payments for work already performed. Justice Samuel Alito, among the 4 dissenting votes, said the ruling supports judicial hubris from a judge that overstepped his authority. The White House will pause for 30 days. 25% tariffs on automobiles imported from Canada and Mexico under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement at the request of the big 3 automakers. Wall Street, bogged down by tariff fears earlier in the week, came roaring back today. The Dow closing 486 points higher. NASDAQ gained 268 points. The S&P 500 closing 64 points higher. America is listening to Fox News.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea.
Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
House Republicans have begun.
Who says he's willing to suffer the consequences.
I was talking about Medicaid. I didn't just say you don't have a mandate. I said you don't have a mandate to cut Medicaid.
Green says he plans to file articles of impeachment against President Trump. On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
Texas Congressman Sylvester Turner, who just took office in January, died overnight, hours after attending the president's speech. The former Houston mayor was elected in November to replace the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. He was 70. City of Los Angeles filing a lawsuit against a utility company for January's deadly Eaton fire.
L.A. County alleges Southern California Edison's equipment sparked the Eaton fire in Altadena, requiring the county to incur massive costs responding to the inferno. While the cause of the fire is still under investigation, this is one of a number of lawsuits against the utility, which cite photos and videos showing flames near a transmission line in Eaton Canyon during high winds. The county looking to recover costs and damages, alleging the fire threatened public health, harmed the environment and wildlife, and impacted natural resources. SoCal Edison has maintained there is no evidence the equipment is responsible. The Eaton fire, one of several that ignited across the county in January, killing 17 people and destroying more than 9,000 structures. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for East Central Illinois, Champaign, and vicinity. Rather windy and cooler to colder day on tap. We've seen already the day's high slowly falling temperatures. Those winds out of the south and southwest will come around westerly and pay heed to the wind advisory. Up through midnight tonight, they'll pick up at 25 to 35, gusts between 45 and 55 miles per hour. And the rain shower activity, well, there's snow down towards St. Louis. That's coming up our way. And we'll see a shift over to late morning and afternoon spells of snow showers and flurries right through early on this evening. A little mixed rain and maybe a minor coating on colder surfaces to start. Overnight readings down to 26. On a west-northwest wind gusting above 50 miles per hour early on. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, windy, 43. Another snow rain system here Friday morning. A shower or two in the afternoon at 43. Then a pattern shift gets going here over the weekend. Much of next week at 47 Saturday, 50 on Sunday, 60 Monday, heading towards the mid to upper 60s next Tuesday and 70s next Wednesday and Thursday as rains return to the area. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
It is The Drive with Dan Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. We'll get to a couple of texts here, talk some more college basketball. Matt says, don't be surprised if we have a situation in which the number 15 seed, like a Middle Tennessee State, beats the number 2 seed, Michigan State type of deal.
Who would be that team among, like, let's cut it off at, like, the top 3 seeds? Who would be the most likely to have a catastrophic upset happen?
We did just see, was that last year? Or 2 years ago, that Arizona lost to Princeton.
Yep.
In the first round.
So hard.
I think that was 2 years ago.
You can't really see it happening to anybody. It's usually a team you don't expect.
What was Kentucky last year?
They were a 3 seed.
They lost to Oakland.
I somehow predicted that correctly in my bracket. It's the best pick I've ever made in my March Madness career.
Wow, that one's impressive. Kentucky was a hot team. Like, they were an exciting, like, Reed Shepherd was playing really well. They had a lot of talent, obviously, and
was one of those where I'd seen that Oakland team, and I knew that, you know, Golke and Townsend I thought were legitimately good mid-major players, and then that Kentucky team didn't guard anybody all year. So I'm like, all right, here's a team that's like 120th in defense, perfect upset candidate. To this day, I don't know if I'll ever top that pick in a bracket. I just took a shot in the dark.
If I'm going to the 3, so we just went through the rest of the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds, talking about how deep of a run that we feel like they'll go on as of right now. We, of course, need to see the bracket, the matchups, and everything. And, you know, a team like if you and I like Florida, what if they're in the bracket with Duke? And obviously that could affect some things. As far as the 3s go, Texas A&M, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, Iowa State. Any one of those jump out to you as a upset?
Say those
alert?
again. Sorry.
Texas A&M, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, Iowa State.
See, I can't really see any of those teams losing to a 14, but for the sake of this, so then the 2 seeds are St. John's,
Michigan State, Florida, Alabama. Are we going to land?
Why do I feel like Michigan State
Are we
is
going to land
the
on Michigan
answer?
State again?
Oh, no. I do feel like it's going to be so hard to beat that team as a 15 seed. Like, their floor is so high, all their depth.
They're deep, they're athletic.
You got an NBA guard. Yeah, the rebounding. I don't feel like this Michigan State team would lose to a 15. I don't think Pitino would either, even though that team struggles to score.
Could A&M? A&M's a team that isn't a very good shooting team. I do like Wade Taylor as a bucket-getting guard with a defense that's good. They turn you over. They did out-rebound the heck out of Auburn last night. They were like near plus 20 on the glass in that game last night.
They're so good on the glass. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the country, and it's barely close. That gives you such a floor against a team that you probably could get 20 offensive rebounds against, some 14 seed. Even if you shoot 2 for 28, you probably still could get out of there just by offensive rebounding. So that's a tough one.
Iowa State will suffocate you defensively, but they will have their struggles to score. Wasn't long ago I thought this Iowa State team, and they still could, and they had an injury. What was it, Curtis Jones, that was out for a little while, but he's back, if I'm not mistaken on that. I thought this was the different year for Iowa State where they are going to pair pretty darn good offense with that defensive style that really disrupts you, and that they are maybe primed for a Final Four. But here recently they haven't been at the same level. They've slipped a little bit in terms of their profile.
I don't think I'm very high on this Iowa State team. They've also dealt with a lot of guys in and out of the lineup, which I think they now are back relatively, if not fully healthy. So they'll be fine heading into the tournament. But they definitely have just looked very vulnerable recently. I mean, you lose at home to Kansas State and BYU. Mm-hmm. Now, BYU's playing great, but they could be that team. If you get a tough 14, and they're a team that maybe isn't going to blow past you by 25 by scoring it a ton, that's not a bad candidate.
Could happen. Could happen as far as that goes. Brian says, I agree with you, Piper. I love St. John's. Pitino may be one of the coaches in history. If you have to win one game to save the world, it might be him or Bob Knight. That's hard to argue with.
Giving Pitino a really good team now heading into the tournament is really scary. Like, that team just plays like him, and that defense is suffocating. They fly around. They're athletic. They got a big man, Ejiofor, that 5, who is a freak athlete, can cover any ground, can switch on the guards and guard them. It is a scary proposition saying, here's a 2-seeded St. John's, one of the best defenses in college basketball, coached by Rick Pitino. Let's see what they do.
I'm excited to watch it. I'm not saying I'm a huge Pitino fan or anything like that, and I know aren't many out there. But
it's more so just who he is as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great coach. Fun brand to have St. John's, relevant and good. And I don't know. I like watching what they've been doing at the Garden and in that Big East, and now getting a chance to step up and just create some really interesting storylines and all of that. They're a fun team to watch, in my opinion. Like you said, their athleticism and defense. Let me ask a different question before we get to a few more texts. When I looked at Brad's big board and saw some of the names on the 8 and 9 line, Kansas in 8, Creighton in 8, Memphis in 8, UConn in 8, Gonzaga's on the 9 line. Is there one of those teams that you're like, all right, they're having a very disappointing year relative to where they should be, but I'd be willing to bet on them as maybe even like a get out of the 8-9 and pull the Arkansas against Kansas upset type of thing?
I'll tell you what, if UConn's not in the Duke-Auburn section, it's going to be hard for me to not pick them to win the 8-1 game. Hurley's still sitting there. Believe me, I don't like him either. I don't like his antics either. The guy can coach. The guy has a freak attitude where he just the way he goes about things. He'll have we're an 8 seed this year, no expectations on us. Everybody's counting us out. Nobody's picking us. He drives that into his team, and his team kind of plays with that attitude. And I still do think there's a lot of talent on that team. Caravan, as kind of the leader of that team's won back-to-back national titles. Sure. Hasn't had a great season, but, man, he can shoot it. He could light them up for 7, 8 threes. So can Solo Ball on that team, one of the best shooters in the country.
McNeely's pretty good.
McNeely is an NBA player, probably a lottery pick. I would not want to see UConn as an 8 seed in the round of 32 as any 1 seed. I wouldn't want to run into the back-to-back national champs. It's not a great UConn team this year, but man, they still, like, some of their wins this year. I mean, who have they beaten? Like, they went to Creighton and won. They went to Marquette and won. Non-conference, they handled Gonzaga. They crushed Baylor. I like it. They still are beating good teams. I'd be still worried about them on the 8 line.
Yeah, the win at Marquette is a good one for sure. They played close with St. John's in Stores, but then they got their doors kind of blown off when they played at Madison Square Garden. That was the day after Illinois and Duke there in New York as well. I'm with you. I think that's the right answer. The vibes are off with Kansas. I think UConn still will have some edge to them, like you said, and Hurley will be doing his deal, and maybe he works the rest into some call. I don't know. Maybe stepping into
it doesn't hurt having won back-to-back titles on the sideline in a close game in the tournament.
I would
probably
say no.
Although at the same time, if you're a aren't you just like, we're done? Like, this is a perfect opportunity to just blow one here, send him home.
Right, let's get him out of here. Kansas, in terms of the talent on the roster,
I'm so out on them. I've
Yeah.
watched them here a little bit recently. Their
broken.
offense is broken. The transfers are a disaster that they brought in. And, like, I don't know, DeJuan Harris is a non-scoring point guard. You got the too big situation. Dickinson hasn't been that good. No thanks. I think they could lose in the first round.
Could see it. They're not offensively, they don't shoot the three well. You look at, they've got a lot of non-shooters between Harris and KJ Adams. Dickinson last year was like a 35-plus three guy, and this year he's taken a big step back. In Big 12 play, I was just looking this up the other night, he's like 19% from three. Wow. So the floor spacing is really problematic. AJ Store's a nothing burger for him.
It's like, it's weird. He'll come on the floor and he'll immediately turn it over, get beat defensively, and Self will sit him on the bench. It's like, what happened to that guy? That guy was an all Big Ten first-team player.
Yeah.
A year ago.
For a
bidding war in the portal.
Yeah.
Bill
Vast
Self
majority.
outbids everybody to bring him in, and like, it's not even like, well, okay, he's relegated now to just a bench guy for Kansas. His minutes are awful. Like, he's not contributing. He's a negative for that team. I don't know what happened to him.
I would have said, if Illinois got him in the portal, as it looked like it was going to be the case for a little while early in that offseason, I would have said that's one of the most perfect, not going to say he beat Terrence Shannon, but to just sub that in and out. Physical, scoring wing who's athletically gifted, who can just come in and do some Terrence Shannon-like things, step into those shoes. I feel like he was one of the prime candidates to do that at Illinois. I don't know if Self messed him up. Self's a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, 2 titles. I mean, I don't know what happened there. I know Self was very vocal going into the year about, look, he's made his reputation and who he is as a player, as a scorer. I'm going to make him learn how to affect winning as a defender and as a rebounder and as not a first option in the offense type of thing. I don't know if that contributed to it. You always wonder, how does a guy react to getting a bunch of money, and then what does that impact? And he might just be having an off year and confident shot, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. I don't know what it is, but that thing is really crazy in terms of how off the rails it is. And yeah, Kansas, where Self last year was like, I'm already thinking about next season. And
probably doing it again. Or is he thinking about his retirement property in Florida or wherever?
I don't know.
I've heard that floated around. I can't
He's
see
gonna
that
dip
happening
after this year,
but I don't know. He feels very frustrated with this
Oh,
group.
yeah.
Although, of course, this whole core's gone, right? Harris, Adams, Dickinson, a couple of these transfers. So he'll kind of get to recreate a new portal team next year. And they've got one of the top players in the class coming in next year in Darren Peterson, who's supposed to be a monster. So he's maybe got something to look forward to.
could still probably figure it out. He might do the Travis Kelce, I'm not going out like that thing.
That would be tough, to go out with this, like his most disappointing team in
Yeah.
like 30 years as a head coach, which is crazy because it's still a solid tournament team, but it is. Like, this is the worst team he's had at Kansas.
Isn't that nuts? If they lose to Arizona this weekend, which they very well could, it's a 500 year in the Big 12. Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, when you've got that kind of money and support and backing and everything, I mean, you could gut this roster even though it's going to gut itself with some of these guys graduating. Just go try to roll the dice in the portal again and see. It could be a totally different outcome. Whatever that needs to be. And maybe Self transitions. You know, he had a stretch, and it's hard to do it that way. You got to have real, like, Izzo-like patience and be willing to have some maybe disappointing years in the build up to, hey, here's this roster I recruited out of the high school and developed and whatever. Self did have a really good way about not saying that he didn't succeed with 5 stars, because he has, but he's also had, like the Christian Browns, the Abajis, some of those guys were like high 4-star, top 50 types, kind of like what the sweet spot for Illinois was for a while with Io and Kofi, and I know Adam Miller didn't pan out, but some of those types as well. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for Kansas other than maybe just let's try to roll the dice again. Wade asks, and this is kind of, I don't think people are coming back to this a bunch, but it is always kind of an interesting conversation. Would you take AJ Storr next year?
No.
Would you take him for like practically free? What if he was like
practically free and no guarantees? Like he could be the 12th man if he doesn't work out in the offseason. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not guaranteeing him anything in my rotation after seeing Bill Self it basically like has to try to sneak him on the floor for 2 minutes and then ultimately pulls him off and is upset with him and can't figure it out. No.
Now he won't be. I'd be shocked if he's basically free, right? I mean, it's still a guy that could be a reclamation project who isn't that far removed from like 17 a game at Wisconsin or whatever it ultimately was.
Fourth college in 4 years too.
There's that. I don't know if he's as a huge discount. If he is like bargain level shopping, wants to be on a winning team and get an opportunity to turn things around, and you can say that there's minimal guarantees, I would consider it, but I don't think Brad Underwood will.
No.
Because Brad and Bill are pretty tight. I think all it would take is Brad to call up Bill and be like, all right, what's the skinny here? What's the story? And I
don't think it'll be positive.
I don't think it'll be
there'll be
positive
glowing
at all.
reviews coming out of his season in Lawrence.
So I think that even at that situation, even though I could convince myself into it, right?
I could very well see him going to insert another Big 12 team like, Kansas State or, I don't know, some lower SEC team, Oklahoma, or just some mid-tier team, and like he's averaging 18 and leading them next year again. Like I could see him going to another high major team and being their leading scorer again next year.
Oh, yeah.
I just wonder.
Go to Minnesota with Ben Johnson.
Yeah. Like as a piece on a team, it's not going to be your featured guy. How much does he help you as opposed to maybe get in the way? Just in terms of his play style. I'm just concerned about that because I just feel like the only way he thrives is if the ball is in his hands all the time and he is the number one scoring option. And he can be good at that, as we saw with Wisconsin. I don't know how high your ceiling is with him as your best player, and I don't know how he fits in as like a complementary piece. I just don't think he has the makeup to be like a really good number 3 on a team. So that's what would hold me back.
I don't blame you on that. And yeah, it's you'd wonder if I don't know what I'm not close enough to the Kansas side of things. Of like, is he a poison in the locker room as things have gone bad? Does he bring other people down? That type of thing. I don't know. I don't know all that. We just know that he's highly, highly struggling. He says Storr should be a discount option with a lot to prove for the NBA.
Yeah.
Again, like I could convince myself as to say, what if this is a extremely humbled AJ Storr, willing to do anything at a lower price, very talented still given his year, and Illinois is his home state, a place that he was originally committed to in high school, and I don't know, that they have maybe an opportunity for him to come in and make shots, be a scorer, and this is a program that has developed Ayo Dosunmu and has developed Terrence Shannon. I could make that case, but yeah, I'd fall back on, I think the intel or just the phone call that Brad would make to Bill, if he even was interested in making it, would be probably the place where it ends. Don't know though. Don't know for sure. I fully expect to see him in the portal, but Wes says AJ might be cheap next year, but will his mom be? Yeah. The asking price last year was high. Now, look, what he was asking for and then ultimately what Coleman Hawkins got and what Great Osobor got, it wasn't as crazy as it maybe originally sounded, but it did seem like it was really, really try to maximize your market value, and it got to a point where Illinois was just like, I think we'll go in a different direction, and Kansas ultimately got him. And as a 651 said, I think we dodged a major bullet, and glad to see it come true.
I would say so. Will Riley or AJ Storr?
Right, yeah.
Will Riley.
Will Riley.
By a long shot. For this team, at the very least.
Yep. No doubt about that.
So who are the other 8-9 teams then, just to kind of wrap this
up?
The
other
was
8-9,
Gonzaga.
It was Gonzaga as a 9.
No thanks on them. Although Funny thing is, like, how many straight Sweet 16s has Mark Few been to? Like 10 or 8 or 9?
Right.
So he just finds a way. Like, he's a good coach to back, but it's just going to be tough if they're a 9 seed against Duke or somebody. This Gonzaga team's just not very good.
I haven't gotten a chance to see him a lot. I haven't had a big reason to watch him. I've thought this to myself, and it's not the same comparison, but Duke going on the run they're going in the ACC, it reminds me of like a Gonzaga team that is killing the WCC. Now, it's not an apples for apples, but it does for Duke. If I'm trying to make an argument of why things maybe wouldn't work out for Duke in the tournament, is they just haven't been tested in forever. It kind of reminds me of a top-notch Gonzaga team that is doing that in the WCC. That's totally a pivot and a tangent there. I don't know. I don't have a reason to like Gonzaga. I know the metrics are way higher on them. They'll be kind of that Loyola-like team, right? That's like a 9 seed that's 11th on KenPom or whatever, and maybe that's something that is a formula that obviously has worked in the past, that you don't want to see them if you're on the other side of them in the first round or maybe even in the second round. But I don't trust them.
Yeah.
We just have gone through Kansas.
9 straight Sweet 16s for Mark Few, though, including
Is it really?
5 of the last 9 years he's gone to the Elite 8.
I didn't know it was like that.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't love seeing them across. Like, could you imagine a UConn-Gonzaga 8-9 game, and that's like Auburn or Duke's reward for getting the 1 seed? That I wouldn't be all that comfortable with that.
I wouldn't be happy if I was the 1 seed waiting on that. That would be great television, though.
It would be an awesome game, and it would be really enticing if it was, let's say, in Florida or Alabama's region. That was the 8-9 meeting. That would be very enticing.
No doubt.
I bet that would be very popular, of picking one of those teams to win. I don't think I would. I just don't think either of those teams is very good, but that could make for an entertaining just pod of the bracket.
Memphis?
I don't know.
Come on, Dane Danger. Don't you want to see the dancing bear dancing into the Sweet 16?
I mean, I would love for Dane to have a nice tournament run. I like Dane a lot. Yep. I just don't know. That Memphis team, I don't trust Penny Hardaway at all.
Right.
So
I really liked that Memphis team 2 years ago when FAU, that was the first round matchup. I had picked in my bracket Memphis to win that game and go to the Final Four. It was actually FAU wins the 8-9 and then goes to the Final Four. But, yeah, they don't get tested in the American at all. And but happy for Dane. Dane's having a really good year.
They got a really good transfer guard, too, P.J. Haggerty. So there's one thing.
Tyrese Hunter, too, on that team.
Yeah. He's how many schools has he been at now?
Iowa State, Texas, Memphis. Yeah.
But he's been in the tournament plenty of times. So it's an interesting team, man. Some of those 8-9 games could be awesome. I mean, there could be some really fun matchups there. Hopefully Illinois is not a part of one of them.
That would be the ideal, no doubt about that. All right, due for a break. Before we catch that, let's do a little bit of work. Let me tell you about Busey as the spring nears. I know it doesn't look like it today, but soon enough, hopefully, the temperatures will warm up. We'll refresh, renew, and restore your home to start. Focus on high-impact projects that will give you the most return, entryways, outdoor spaces, high-traffic rooms like the kitchen. These quick and budget-friendly home refreshes can help you ditch those lingering winter doldrums. Take a tip from Mother Nature and turn up your color. You may not be able to make the grass turn green, but you can certainly add color to your decor. You only have one chance to make a great first impression. While you have the paint out, why not bring vibrancy to your vestibule? Freshen up your outdoor area as the weather warms up. We are drawn to the outdoors. Having a fresh space will only add to the enticement. Let the sunshine in. Cleaning windows and mirrors allows your home to really shine. And cook up a serene space in your kitchen. Whether your home refresh is as simple as decluttering and updating, or whether you need a contractor, Busey's team can help you get started with a home equity loan or a line of credit. You can go to Busey.com to set up an appointment with one of their professionals or call 1-800-67-BUSEY. Busey, member FDIC.
You've set your financial goals. One kid plans to go Big Ten, the other Ivy.
Your bucket list includes seaside sunrises and sunsets on the slopes, or perhaps a second home away from it all. Busey Bank can help develop the right investment strategy to take charge of the years ahead. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Illinois basketball season is underway. Single game tickets to see your Fighting Illini at State Farm Center are on sale now at fightingillini.com. Great seats are still available. Lock in your tickets for big games against Big Ten opponents before they're gone. Don't miss your chance to see the winningest team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 5 years. Be part of the atmosphere and get tickets at fightingillini.com.
So Tim, he's in charge of Dedicated Diesel and Gale Frericks Trucking. Let's begin with Gale Frericks Trucking. How are we doing?
Oh, we're doing real good. We've got a bunch of great guys. We work together, and it's how things are done around here. If we need to fix something, we face it head on, we get it fixed. And that's the kind of guys we're looking for, that really want to service the customer and want to do things right and want to be successful. They want to make good money. They want to be home with their families on the weekends, and that's the kind of guys that we need here.
As far as training and GFT, they kind of go hand in hand, and you got everyone very experienced on your crew.
Oh yeah, it's a great team, and even the ones that don't have much experience, we're teaching them the right ways to do things, and that goes a long way. We don't just tell them what to do. I'm a teacher at heart, so I'm teaching them why we're doing it. That really hits home with them. They appreciate that. It just makes things run so much smoother.
How can people reach Tim Onstock?
They can get me at TIMO@GFTLOG.com or Dedicated Equipment on Facebook.
Want unbeatable prices on your next furniture purchase, but also seeking that local hometown feel? Look no further than Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Customers rave about their friendly, established staff, as well as their great selection, amazing prices, and second-to-none delivery service. They're a third-generation local business, and they've always got your best interests at heart. Find the look you love for less. Open 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, but always available online at kelseyfurniture.com. That's kelseyfurniture.com.
Are you ready to upgrade your home this spring? Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing has got the sale for you. Now through the end of March, offering a free water heater with the purchase of a new HVAC system, or 60 months, 0% interest on financing for a new HVAC system. It's the biggest sale of the year. Call Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing at 217-841-4728. Get a free quote for your home today. It's 217-841-4728. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
Christie Clinic Illinois Race Weekend is coming at the end of April. Choose from events like the Half Marathon, 4-person relay team, 10K, 5K, mile, and youth run. Get in on multiple events for extra swag and medals. Check out the new Race app to put the most important race information at your fingertips, including the course maps, schedule of events, and details about the Health and Fitness Expo. Volunteers can sign up now for a variety of shifts and jobs with numerous skill sets. Be part of the welcome team at the Packet Pickup and Expo at the Arc. Find out details about how to support, earn money for charities, and find entertainment near the Memorial Stadium finish line at IllinoisMarathon.com. Celebrate our Illini alumni participating with the U of I Alumni Association. Feel free to get all your race details in person at Body and Soul. The experienced personalized service can measure your gait and get terrific footwear to be prepared for race weekend at the end of April. Body and Soul, 1317 North Dunlap in Savoy, or visit bodyandsoulsports.com.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. We did have a text on the Max Twin City Recycling text line 217. Hearing Dame Sarr to Illinois rumors.
Care to expand?
I have seen Joe Timpton of On3 put in a whatever their crystal ball is over there at that site for an 18-year-old international star. Wonder who that would be. And yeah, I've heard a lot about Dame Sarr in the last couple of months. We talked about him a little bit on this show. I really like where Illinois sits with him as well, a guy that Jeff Alexander and company have been over to see multiple times. He plays for Barcelona their top team over there overseas, top professional team. He hasn't played a lot of minutes, although he did just have a outing over the weekend, I believe, where he has 21 points, and those highlights have come out. I know a lot of people have come across them on probably social media, but he's a really impressive, high-ceiling type of prospect, 18 years old. I think he's around 6'7", with a really long wingspan, good athlete. You see him, the way he can attack the rim. Kyle and I were actually just talking off the air during that last segment. He is somebody that's proven to be a pretty darn good defender up to this point. He is slender, Will Riley-esque, although I think a little bit more muscle mass at this point in time.
Looked a little bit more built than Will.
Yeah. One of the criticisms or just things that he needs to improve upon is continuing to get stronger. The jump shot has been inconsistent up to this point. He's had stretches where he has shot it well, and then others where it's been sub 30%. So that's something that he does need to get more consistent with. But Arizona has been a long-standing big-time contender for him. They nearly got him this past summer, trying to add him as a late guy to their roster. And I think the credits, academics, whatever it was, didn't ultimately line up for him to be able to make that move. Louisville tried to be in there as maybe even a possible mid-year guy, tried to bring him in at the middle of the season, but they didn't get that done either. So it's really been Illinois, Arizona, Creighton working him as well. I think Illinois is best positioned to land him as it stands right now. You do have some connections between, he's same agency as KJ, played with KJ last year there on the Barcelona junior national team. So what Illinois has done with KJ this year as far as development, usage, all of that, the relationships with the staff and everything in Illinois has become a attractive destination for European prospects. And they obviously have gone all in on their inroads there. And it's exciting. It's exciting what Illinois has done. I feel like he's a Will Riley replacement type of guy. I think that
was going to be my first question was, does he slot in as like a plug-and-play, get here and immediately be a big-time contributor?
I would think so. It will still depend on what Illinois can do elsewhere in terms of retention or portal addition. I think the early words, I think they want 2 wing additions, Sarr being one, and then maybe another guy in the portal, although it could depend on, what if Trey White ends up returning? Is that affecting things and that maybe lessens the need for another wing addition or however that ultimately lines up? But, yeah, I think that Illinois sees him similarly as a playmaking wing with a high upside that can make plays with the ball in his hands. They are a little different in terms of Will's a better shooter, at least at this stage in his development. I know that Will has been up and down in terms of three-point shooting, but you do have the wing size, the feel for the game, the playmaking, and then what's different about Sarr versus Will as far as a bonus for Sarr is a little stronger and might be an immediate impact defender. He's very rangy.
Way more athletic than Will Riley.
More athletic and has been able to show, in the FIBA stuff, had a lot of steals. And then you see him, again, like attacking the rim. That's something that he's a lot maybe more ready for as a slasher. So he's an exciting prospect and one that I think Illinois has done really well with.
How does his jump shot project? Is that a guy that's one of the biggest question marks around him is his shooting? Because that's the one thing when you picture next year's roster for me, and I know some people will say, well, we saw this year's shooting's overrated. Don't even worry about it. The shooting for next year's roster is probably the number one concern for me if you do kind of picture like, okay, you're going to play the 2 bigs. Kylan obviously is coming off of a very down shooting season. If you did bring Trey White back, there's another guy who's got shooting question marks. And so if he is not a guy that's necessarily going to be like a floor spacing shooting wing, does that concern you at all in terms of, okay, let's plug him right in alongside what you're bringing back?
I think it does make you wonder about, can you play him, Trey White, and Merez together?
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be a question I would have. And certainly you could balance some rotations and how that goes. Does he impact Trey White's role? I think that's something to be asked And again, we got to see how the retention process ultimately goes in this offseason. But I don't know. It's hard to gauge because he hasn't played a lot of minutes this year for Barcelona. He's only averaged, I think he's played 19 games with them, and his minutes are below 5 minutes a night. And again, he's playing the top level pro league, so you understand that. He's shooting 35% from three, but there's less than 20 attempts on the season. So I don't really know what to make of that. I think he's capable from the outside, but certainly needs to get more consistent. I think for what I've gathered and what I've seen in terms of his stats and as a player, I think you'll just go in thinking he's an inconsistent three-point shooter that does need to get better at that. That is one of his primary attributes that he needs to hone in on to make him a bona fide, first-round talent for the NBA.
Is he somebody that could be a one-and-done?
He could. He's got that talent. He's known as one of the higher-ceiling European prospects, especially for those that are going to college or looking at college as a main option. Just some things that he needs to be able to take the next step on to really have that potential fully realized, and that's further physical development, shooting, and just game-to-game consistency. That's something that when you look at his Italy junior national team stuff, there are some game logs. You'd be like, oh, he was awesome in this one with stuff in the stat sheet, and then maybe just too many turnovers in this game with not having the three-point shooting. But you watch him on tape, especially the recent outing for Barcelona, and he's really excited. I did want to ask you, and this has been something we got to do our update, right, Kyle? What's the updated retention
every single
power
game
rankings? I think we have a pretty solidified top three, right?
Yeah. Yep. Kylan Boswell has separated himself in a tier of his own beyond the two bigs, in my opinion, with his recent form.
He's beyond the two bigs?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like,
outside of those
outside,
guys.
yeah. I used the wrong word there.
My bad.
No. He's not above Merez and Tommy. Merez and Tommy, to me, are in a tier of their own, and then behind him, I think it's a solo tier of Kylan, and then the rest of the roster. My apologies.
No,
Thank you for clearing that up. I did use the wrong. That's not what I was trying to say.
I knew, I think, where you were going on that, but I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
All right. I agree with you. I don't think that's going to change. I feel like that is pretty solidified. I'm not saying that somebody can't make a run here down the stretch. We've still got plenty of basketball. Obviously, if it's an extended postseason run, things can there's a runway there to see what happens. But it's obvious that Illinois has prioritized Kylan, and it was the right move. It was something that I wasn't entirely sure on. We can go back to the column I wrote after Wisconsin, what we talked about on here when I said I'd put DGL there. I think it's obviously played out that Illinois said, no, Kylan is a huge piece for us. And I've never questioned that. I've obviously known who he can be and what the role was supposed to be for him here. He just had some struggles, and DGL was coming on, and I just didn't know what a non-confident Kylan Boswell was going to do for you and how much more opportunity you should lean into that. But Illinois, number one, gave him more opportunity. Kylan's gotten confident. Both sides have done well there. All right, who's four? Is
still DGL for me.
Okay.
I still would really like to get him back. It's more so going to be a question on his end of what is he willing to accept after the role he's been in the last 2 years, especially if his role is about what it's been here the last couple games down the stretch in terms of 10 minutes a game off the bench. At that point, it almost just feels inevitable that it's probably not going to happen. I still would like to. Just if I could have anybody,
yeah, right.
I would like DGL to be back next year, probably in a 6th, 7th man type of role. Will he accept that as a junior? I would be skeptical, but for me, I would love that.
Yeah, I think when you and the premise of this is to say if you could get these guys back, if it's not necessarily factoring a ton into likelihood or whatever it might be, because if you really wanted to, if you wanted to put Ty Rodgers at 3 or 4, you could. I wouldn't put him there. I know some are much more inclined to want to do that. I still have a good vision for DGL if he were to stick around, and I'm with you, though. We've had the conversation. I don't feel like Kylan and DGL are going to start together next year. Could you, though? Could you pull off a situation where it's Kylan, DGL? What if it's Dame, Sar, Merez, and Tommy? Or if it is Kylan, DGL, Trey, Merez, and Tommy,
I'd be
Dame
so surprised.
off the bench?
I'd be so surprised if at least one Illinois starter next year is not a guy we have no idea about right now.
Yeah.
From the transfer portal. I'd just be really surprised.
I'm with you. I think I've said it before. I expect Illinois to take a huge swing at a playmaker. I think it's beyond Dame. I think Dame is like a Will Riley the replacement. Who's the KJ replacement, right? And I'm not saying it's going to be another player of KJ's level or another European or whatever it might be, but I feel like as of right now, I don't think Kylan's going to be your for sure. It could be a shared role. I wouldn't put that past it. And maybe Kylan shows more down the stretch where you're comfortable with him being more of the primary and you just add a secondary. I don't know. But I think it would be...
I'd be hesitant.
I think it would be, yes.
I really like Kylan in that secondary role.
I'm with you.
Complement more legitimate lead ball handler.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, I've said it before. I think that going into next year, my vision for Kylan would be secondary ball handler, try to get him more catch-and-shoot threes, and then obviously lockdown defender. And I think that would be perfect for him. 2-on-7, Kylan shot 40% last year from three.
That's what I've said all along. I would be stunned if he comes back as a senior next year and shoots 21% from three again. Just don't think it's going to happen. For whatever reason, he's lost confidence in his jump shot, hasn't been able to buy one this year. Flush it this offseason, come back. I think he's still, if not a great shooter, at least a very capable three-point shooter at the college level, and I think he will be that next year. That would be my prediction if he came back.
Yep. 39% from three as a freshman, 38% from three as a sophomore, and he was a 40% catch-and-shoot guy throughout both those years if you just combine those at Arizona.
He's always been able to shoot as a prospect, too, coming in. I find it hard to believe he just forgot how to shoot overnight.
Yeah, I agree.
Came home and decided I'm not going to work on my jumper anymore. I'm not going to shoot anymore.
No.
It's just, for whatever reason, at a nightmarish shooting season, I think you flush it, you come back, and he'll be fine.
Yep. I know some people have, this has been a conversation on our message board, which I don't always want to bring those to the here, because people are not going to knock on anybody that has, an account on Illini Inquirer and discourse that takes place, but the note of shooting has been pertinent as far as piecing these guys together, and Kylan, the way he shot this year, Trey White, the shooting, Merez, that he's not a shooter. Some have said they want to see Merez become a possible shooter. Is that something that you would look into? If it's me, I'm like, Kylan shoot at the level that he shot previous to Illinois, which is, I think, very, very achievable. Trey White, if he's back, to be a little bit better, more like we've seen recently, but kind of his body work says he's going to be an inconsistent, if not below average, three-point shooter. But I would almost rather those guys hone in on it than try to turn Merez into this stretch big. That's where I would stand on it.
That's not Merez's game. I feel like that would almost just kind of take the focus away from what I think should be, which is just dominate the skill set he does have, become the best rebounder in the country, work on. I think the biggest thing I want to see from Merez is a step forward just in terms of finishing and post moves.
Yeah.
To become a guy who maybe you can play through a little bit more offensively in terms of a low post scoring option.
Or high-low.
Or, really
Tommy
more
to
high-low
Merez.
stuff, Tommy to Merez, or even just, if it's a 10-footer where he could knock that one down. And free throw shooting, I think, is one I'd love to see him be as good of a free throw shooter as possible, because, boy, do I think that guy's going to get fouled a lot as an upperclassman. I don't think you worry about, Merez become a stretch big hitting threes for us. That to me would almost just take away the time and effort that I want him spending on just perfecting what he already is looking very promising at.
Right. I know we're due for one more break here, but I did want to say this. Where do you put Trey White? I'm tempted to put Trey White at 4 over DGL.
I'm very conflicted on this because Trey White's great moments this year, he's been really good. But the shooting thing for me is where I get hung up. And I get that topic heading into building next year's roster is probably going to be very divisive because of the way this team shot the ball after being praised as, well, this is going to be an elite shooting team, and they weren't. And they built the team around shooting, and it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. So I get that that's going to cause a lot of back and forth. However, I do think it's going to be a big concern heading into next year. If you have the two bigs, now Tommy obviously is a floor spacer, but I think a little bit of that gets mitigated when you have Merez playing next to him. Plus, so you have Merez as a non-shooter. Kylan's going to have shooting questions going into next year. If you bring in Sarr, another guy with shooting questions, I really think you need an elite shooter at the wing from the portal. I think that needs to be number 2 behind, and maybe it's just Humrickhouse coming back. I don't know if that's even on the table, and that solves kind of one of those issues. But I think number 2 need for me behind playmaker is 40% proven college three-point shooter at the wing. And I would just get concerned if you all of a sudden have Trey White, Sarr, Kylan, Merez. Even if let's say you bring in another guard who's maybe not a knockdown shooter, I do think you still need to be able to space the floor. You do need to be able to maximize that 2 big lineup with shooting around them to make those guys their most effective. And even though Trey White's made some threes here recently, I don't think he'll ever be respected as a three-point threat at the college level. However, I still would like him on my team.
Yeah.
Just how big of a role. I still have questions about that.
I'm with you on that.
I'm not comfortable locking Trey White into my starting 3 alongside those 2 bigs and Kylan next year. Just am not comfortable with that.
I agree with you. The last few weeks of this season could have a big say. I mean, I could see a world where after the NCAA tournament, we say that Trey White is comfortably a starter next year, and you're excited about it if he finishes this season out pretty strongly.
Look, if he gives you what he gave you at Michigan 4 more times in the postseason, yes. Yeah. I will take back what I just said and say Trey White, number 4 on the list.
Yep.
Promise him as much as you can.
Yep. But in the meantime, I'm kind of with you. I'd want him back, but I wouldn't want to make too many guarantees. I know we've said that a couple of different times about like Ben Humrickhouse and some different potential guys, even like a DGL maybe at this point. You wouldn't guarantee him a starting spot, but you'd love to have him as a 6-man. With Trey, I'd say, hey, you're in competition with Sarr, and your minutes might conflict with each other. We probably still go out in the portal and look for a shooter. So I don't know, but I do really like what I've seen from him recently, and that's a guy's going to turn 22 years old this offseason going into next year. That would be a veteran that would have some carryover year 1 to year 2 in the program. And if he trends up further into the postseason play, I would want that guy back.
One other thing I would really like to see from him down the stretch is more consistency on the defensive end.
Yeah. Yep.
He's been really up and down. There's been times where I thought, man, Trey White is guarding his butt off. And there's been other times where he's made a lot of mistakes and has not looked good. I would feel a lot better with the questionable shooting if I could say, okay, this guy's going to rebound, this guy's going to be somebody who's a great cutter, can attack the rim, can give you some of these 20-point type scoring outings, and also can guard the wing at a high level. I'm not sold on his ability to do that. I'd love to see him finish the year strong in that regard as well.
It's a good point. I agree with that. All right, one more break. Come back, wrap up the show, get to your texts. It is The Drive.
This is XYZ Insurance. How can I help?
I have a question about my home policy.
Okay, question about phone policy.
Home policy.
Okay, gnome policy.
HOME, home.
Technology is great, but sometimes it's better to talk with a real person. With Erie Insurance, you have a caring, independent agent who's with you from beginning to end.
We don't have any HOMEs on record.
Your Erie agent in Champaign is Thomas & Ellers Insurance. Go to erieinsurance.com for company licensure and product details.
Sarah Champagne Managing Partner Ben Quattrone on why integrity is important at Sarah.
We hire the person. The person makes the deal. The person makes the department. The person makes everyone around them treat people with courtesy and respect. If you have a quality human being, you can play any position, right? We're talking about sports. They can perform in any department, and I could teach someone a job, but I can't teach them to be a good person.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com. That's SERRA champagne.com.
At Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people with amazing service, great design advice, and unbeatable selection and the best prices in town. It's the perfect time to update your home with waterproof flooring, carpet, hardwood, tile, and more. Then complete your rooms by shopping our incredible selection of furniture and accessories. We also offer great financing options. Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people.
Are you sitting too much? University of Illinois College of Applied Health Sciences PNC Lab is recruiting men and women between 40 and 70 years old with no history of cardiovascular disease to participate in the HIT to Sit Less study. Exercise on a stationary bike for 6 minutes in 30-minute intervals. 3 sessions will be conducted with compensation up to $280. For details, call 217-333-0581. or email pnc-lab@illinois.edu. Help U of I researchers learn more about the relationship between sitting, physical activity, and brain health. In Freer Hall, 906 South Goodwin. Visit publish.illinois.edu/hit-2-sit-less to participate in the HIT to Sit Less study. Publish.illinois.edu/hit-2-sitless.
Finishing up on the drive with Tane Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Scott had a text about the Bears. We need to talk more Bears tomorrow. Maybe I'll text Aaron Lemming, try to get him on, because they've done some things via trade to bolster that offensive line. Joe Thuney from the Chiefs.
Can you believe it? An all-pro offensive lineman is headed to Chicago.
Unbelievable. First team all-pro. He's been an all-pro, I think, the last 4 years, whether first team or second team.
He is one of the best guards in the league.
Love it. 4th-round pick going to KC. He's got 1 more year left on his contract, $15.5 million. 32 years old, but, man, 4-time Super Bowl winner, played with the Patriots, protecting Tom Brady for a little while, and then obviously with Mahomes and company. So, yeah, it's almost too good to be true. I know I was listening to the score on the drive over. He's only missed 2 starts in his in his whole NFL career. Is some of that just luck? Obviously plays into it a little bit. He is getting a little older. You hope that doesn't come into play. But at 32, you'd think he still has a few good years left in him, right?
Yeah, as an offensive lineman, I think those guys usually can get up there into their high 30s and still play at a high level.
Yep.
Especially guards, although there's been some really old tackles too, but especially guards to where, you're not having to – your mobility isn't as big of a factor. I guess it depends what scheme you're in. But I think, 32, you should be. 3-4 more good years at least, I think.
Yeah, that's a rock star get for the Bears, no doubt about it. And it helps when you're hopeful for Trey Smith, and then he gets, franchise tagged? Did he get tagged or did he get a new deal with the Chiefs?
Got tagged.
Got tagged by the Chiefs. There was the also trade, of course, you get Jonah Jackson, who was drafted by the Lions, Ben Johnson there at the time, and recently with the Rams. So another guard that will get inserted into the mix.